The NBA is set to release the 2022-23 NBA schedule. The Oklahoma City Thunder have 5 marquee games I think you should be looking forward to. Plus, could you have scripted a better debut matchup for Chet Holmgren than the Minnesota Timberwolves? Why that's going to put so much more pressure on the second overall pick from the 2022 NBA draft. All this and more coming up on today's Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your teams every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, media member, and editor-in-chief over at thunderousintentions.com, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, brought to you by BetOnline, we're diving into the top 5 matchups on the schedule for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Chet Holmgren's debut game is going to be very fun, but very pressurized for the second overall pick. Predicting the national TV slate for Oklahoma City, and I think the NBA got the Christmas Day slate right. All that coming up on today's show, brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this year with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. I want to thank you right now for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. And let's start by talking about Chet Holmgren. He is set to make his debut against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Thunder will open up their season on October 19th on the road in Minnesota. This will be, of course, Chet Holmgren's debut. He should find himself in that starting lineup just as Josh Giddey did a year ago whenever he was a 6th overall pick in 2021. This debut will not only take place against Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, but also in Chet Holmgren's home state. He's from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is going to be one of the most fun debuts and one of the most fun games on the docket. So if you aren't aware with the NBA schedule release, obviously the entire schedule will come out today at 2 p.m. on Wednesday, local time in Oklahoma City. The entire schedule will be released. Now, the format is always the same in terms of the opening week. So the defending champions will play, obviously, on TNT, and then usually the team that lost in the finals will play as well, if it's, because you can do the whole East and West thing and put the West team on at 9 and the East team on at 7. And so that's what they've done again this year. Obviously, the Thunder were not going to match up with the Warriors to open up the season. That was the Lakers. And not going to match up with the Celtics to open up the year. And so their season starts on the 19th. Some teams who are also, of course, bigger marquee draws than what the Thunder are right now will wait and to play on that Thursday on the other big TNT day of the calendar year. Obviously, that TNT owns the rights to Tuesday, Thursday. So they'll play on that Thursday to open up the season. And that's what will happen for teams like the Mavericks. But for the Thunder, they're going to start on Wednesday, and they're going to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think that this is the best matchup that the NBA could have put for Oklahoma City. This will get the most attention for the Thunder. This will get the most eyeballs, and it'll provide the most pressure for Chet Holmgren. This game will go a long way because when you think about it, the start of the NBA season obviously has the most eyeballs to it. It's where fans are the most engaged until the playoffs because you just want to see everything that's new. So you've got the whole brand new season going for you. That's whenever the NBA generates the most eyeballs. The second thing you have going for you is you're playing a team who made key additions. You want to see how Cat and Rudy Gobert fit together. The third thing is you've got Chet Holmgren and SGA, guys who people want to watch now, and that's going to be a very fun draw for even a non-Thunder, non-Wolves fan. And the fourth thing is this might be the last Thunder game that they check out for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. This might be the last Thunder game they watch all season. So this is going to be the impression for Chet Holmgren on a national stage. It's not going to be nationally televised, but on a stage where if you've got League Pass, you are dipping into this game, even if you're not a fan of one of these two teams. And so for Chet Holmgren, not only does every player have pressure to play well in their first game if you're picked in the top 5, picked in the lottery, but you have that built-in pressure, but you also have the pressure of going up against a 7'1", 258-pound, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 6-time All-Defensive member, 4-time All-NBA member, Rudy Gobert, right out of the gates. And so either way, somebody's going to take a victory lap. Either the crowd who believes that that Chet Holmgren is too small, in that people like Rudy Gobert and Joel Embiid are going to break him in half, and he can't survive in the NBA. He can't go up against the physicality of grown men in the NBA, and he can't handle it. The people who believe that are either going to take a victory lap if he plays poorly, or if you believe that he can handle it and he plays well, you're taking the victory lap over that as well. There's not going to be a middle ground. It's not going to be a great game and people go, oh, it's his first game, it's just one game, forget about it. He's got to show it over a course of time. And if he has a bad game, it's not going to be, oh, it's just rookie jitters. It's just the pressure of the first game. It's no big deal. This game will be a big deal for the Thunder. It'll be a big deal for Chet Holmgren. Now, we can talk about how wrong it is to base a lot of this on one game. That's obvious, but it's what happens. It's how the social media works. It's how the NBA media works. It's how the narratives start to shift. And this is a narrative that's already been spun. We've been spinning it and spinning it and spinning it since a month before the draft, since a year before the draft, talking about Chet Holmgren. We saw it in Summer League. So you pair that Kenny Lofton clip that people love to throw around, you pair that clip with a clip of Rudy Gobert going after him on opening night, and that is all that the people need as a runway to tear down Chet Holmgren. So there's a lot of pressure for him to perform as a starter day one against Rudy Gobert, against Karl-Anthony Towns, against two of the best big men in the NBA for different reasons. So offensively, Chet goes up against one of the best or the best defensive big man. And defensively, the Thunder could utilize him on Karl-Anthony Towns, their best offensive big. And, oh, by the way, that's just one of the greatest shooting big men of all time, and a guy who can drop you 25 points a night. Yeah, not an easy start. This is a big-time welcome to the league moment for Chet Holmgren. This is not a debut you wash your hands of either way. This is a debut that will stick with you probably throughout the entirety of your rookie season. Because again, how many of those eyeballs that the Thunder get night one will be recurring eyeballs versus how many of them were, I've got League Pass for the first time, I'm excited for the season to start, the League Pass free trials happening on my TV provider, let's tune in and watch this brand new lineup of the Timberwolves, who already have the fun, exciting players like Cat and now Rudy, and now Anthony Edwards, of course, is tearing it up and becoming a fan favorite. And check out SGA and Chet Holmgren and Josh Giddey and the Thunder. Like, this is going to be a game people watch, even though it's not nationally televised, and it's going to be a game that people make opinions on, even though it's only one game out of the season. So get ready for a fun and intensive game right out of the chute. You're going to be scratching and clawing to defend Chet Holmgren on social media all season, and it starts with a bang on opening night. That's going to be one of your toughest moments of the season if you're going to choose to fight the battle on social media with anti-Chet Holmgreners throughout the season. What does this mean for the Thunder schedule overall? Of course, we don't have it yet. We'll have it in a few hours, but it doesn't really mean anything yet because it's not that far of a trip. Like the NBA could easily schedule this as a one-off road trip, and the Thunder come right back to OKC to have their home opener. However, since you're already on the road, they also could throw you to a game against Milwaukee or Cleveland or Indiana or Detroit or Chicago before you return home. So we're not quite sure how that home opener is going to work out. And I say that because if they were to debut in Portland, they're not going to send the Thunder to Portland and come right back. They're going to do their California circuit real quick to open up the season. At least their first go-around of it. So this road game being in Minnesota, it leaves the door open for a quicker home opener than another road trip would have been. So nothing is decided yet, and we'll see when that home opener is. I would not expect it before, say, the 21st, 22nd, but we'll see once we get the actual schedule in our hands. But this is going to be a very, very strong test for the Thunder and for Chet Holmgren, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see that pairing of Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns in general, and of course excited to watch Chet Holmgren. So this is a picture-perfect debut, and it just creates and just has all these storylines attached to it. And if I had to guess, and I'll have to talk with Locked On Wolves host Ben Beacon about this, but if I had to guess, without having my finger to the pulse of Minneapolis, I think that will be close to a sellout game. I think that this will be a time where Timberwolves are probably the most excited they've been about their franchise, coming off of a playoff appearance, coming off of having a guy who looks like a star in Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns, who again is a generational big, and now adding a legendary defensive anchor. It's going to be a fun ride in Minneapolis this season. They probably have the most season tickets they've ever had, and they probably have a sellout crowd that night. So it'll be a raucous atmosphere, and you're returning home. You have three different factors: the pressure of your NBA debut, the pressure of returning home, and the pressure of taking on Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns. And the homecomings are oftentimes fun, but they also oftentimes have a lot of pressure attached to them. Remember when Trey Mann went to Orlando, and we're thinking, hey, it's the Magic. He's in his hometown. He's gonna light it up. They didn't shoot very efficiently. Didn't just drop a ton of points. There's pressure attached to that. You have your whole family, your whole friends list in the building watching you, and you want to try so hard to impress them that you start pressing and playing outside yourself and playing worse than what you normally would. So there's a lot of stuff happening inside the head of Chet Holmgren on his debut. He'll be in the starting lineup, another stressor for him on opening night. So it'll be fun, though, and we're looking forward to it. But coming up, what else do we know about the Thunder schedule, and what are the top 5 matchups for the Thunder this season, as well as talking about the Christmas Day slate, which I think that the NBA knocked out of the park this season. But I do want to tell you that you're hanging out with some of your friends, you're putting a few back with drinks, and you've had a few too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride, but you think, nah, I live nearby, I can make it home okay, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, what are the odds you get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risk of drunk driving, but the results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still does not stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives and stay safe. So if you think it's okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes a few minutes and it only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. We are back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. We've talked Chet Holmgren's debut. Let's talk about the other game that we know on the Thunder schedule. The Thunder will take on the Houston Rockets on November 26th in Houston on NBA TV. Of course, the NBA brands this game as a nationally televised game, but we know NBA TV games just don't have that feel. They just don't feel like it's a big-time national game because all they're doing is taking your local broadcast and plastering it on NBA TV, and that's kind of it. You don't have the kind of sense of energy from, oh my gosh, Jeff Van Gundy's here, Stan Van Gundy's here, everyone's in the building tonight, for this contest. It just doesn't have that same built-up energy from it. And also, not everyone has NBA TV. Far less people have it than they have TNT or ABC or ESPN. And of course, again, as a Thunder fan, you don't get a different broadcast. You don't get a different taste of how the national perspective is on your team because it's still locally broadcast in Oklahoma City if you're living in market. So it's just branded that way because it's not a League Pass exclusive or a local TV exclusive. But we know that the true testament of a national TV game is ABC, ESPN, and TNT. But this will be a fun game still, and this will be on a bigger stage, NBA TV, and it is also a natural rivalry between these fan bases, which is great. You're going to get to go on 2 days after Thanksgiving. You're going to have some leftover turkey, some leftover stuffing, maybe put some turkey. Here's the key. You put some cold turkey on a dinner roll, make a little sandwich, put some mayo on it maybe. Oh, it's just to die for. Check it out and try that for this game against the Rockets. And you're going to have fun because you're going to get to bicker with Rockets fans. It's a rivalry for fan bases, like for the two fan bases. Not a rivalry for the teams, obviously. But in the sense of rivalries, there is no team that Thunder fans fight with more on social media, and even on podcasts, shout out Jackson Gatlin, than the Houston Rockets. So this is going to be awesome to watch Jalen Green, Alfred Sengun, Kevin Porter Jr. go up against SGA, Josh Giddey, and Chet Holmgren. The important topic here for me was the leak we got about Houston, because in this leak, we found out Houston's national TV slate. So the Rockets will play 4 games on what's classified as national television. Now, 3 of them are NBA TV. I personally don't like to count those, but of course the NBA does. However, one of those games of the 4 is on ESPN against Sacramento. Now, the Thunder have been blocked off of playing on ESPN, ABC, TNT for the last 2 seasons. They have not played a national televised game in that sense. They've played on NBA TV, but they've not played on ESPN, TNT, ABC. If the Houston Rockets can get a game on ESPN against the Sacramento Kings, I would be outraged if we find out tomorrow at 2 p.m. that the Thunder do not play at least one game on ESPN, TNT, or ABC. Because there's just too many things in their favor. Not only do you have fun players like Chet Holmgren, Josh Giddey, and SGA, who all provide big personality, big highlights, and just fun conversation and fun storylines about their game, but you have so many matchups that people are going to want to see. We've mentioned Chet Holmgren going up against big men and feeding that narrative, both good or bad, that the NBA could go with in terms of putting them on national television. You also have the built-in storyline of just going up against Paolo Banchero, the number 1 overall pick, in the draft, who was picked over Chet Holmgren, and Paolo Banchero and Chet Holmgren have a relationship, and they played in that Pro-Am in Seattle, I think it was, where they both dropped like 50 points and just went insane. And they've both shown you personality. They've both shown you markability. Paolo Banchero's fighting with DeJounte Murray in the middle of August to the point where their friendship ended on social media. He has that it factor, and Chet Holmgren has that confidence to not back down from it, and it can create this big clash and this fun moment for the league if you just throw them on one of your national TV slots, which leads me to my next point. You have so many slots to fill. During the majority of the NBA season, the NBA has to fill a national TV slot. And again, I'm personally counting national as TNT, ESPN, ABC. That's not how the league does it. But for me, you have a national TV slot on Tuesday, TNT, Wednesday, ESPN, Thursday, TNT, Friday, ESPN, Saturday, ABC, primetime Saturday night, Sunday afternoon on ABC. You have so many slots to choose from that if you cannot throw the Thunder a bone and put them on one of them one time, the same way you did for Houston, that would be a bit egregious. That would be a bit outrageous, especially because you have so many built-in storylines around it with the Paolo Banchero factor, or even Keegan Murray, if you want to keep marketing him, and the Kings who are trying to go for the play-in. There's so many other top picks, Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, obviously, and Cade Cunningham against SGA and Josh Giddey, plus Chet Holmgren. That'd be a fun one as well. There's so many opportunities for you to put this team on prime time in one of your slots. I'm only asking for one. Just give me one. I'm not asking for too much, I don't think. I think that they should be on there. I think that that's what we learned more so about the Thunder schedule whenever we saw that outline of Houston's. You should probably look for the same thing. 3 NBA TV games, 1 true national broadcast. And it'll be very fun to see the Thunder back on a main stage and back on a public platform for the organization. Now, coming up, let's talk about 5 matchups that we are interested in this season. We don't know when exactly they're going to get played, but we do know the matchups that are going to happen eventually, and we'll find out those matchups officially today. But what are some teams you should be looking for as you get the schedule in your hand this afternoon and circling and wanting to go to the games when they're in town? We'll talk about that coming up, but first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at BetOnline, folks. BetOnline is the fastest and best way to bet on all of your sport action, from NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline is your continued source for sports wagering information, live betting, scores, podcasts, and news. They have you covered. So head right now to BetOnline today, or even use your mobile device to check out the live action and bet on sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. It's very simple. If you're like me and you only really want to bet on NBA basketball, you can still do that even though it's August. Just go to the basketball tab on their sports book, and then you can go and check out NBA games, which opening night, Warriors-Lakers ring ceremony night for the Warriors. The Warriors are 6.5-point favorites over the LA Lakers. So you can bet on that game already, but you can also bet on future bets like who's going to win the championship. You can bet on win totals in the regular season. You can also bet on specials like who's Kevin Durant's next team, if not the Nets. The Celtics are currently the favorites. The Thunder are plus 2,000 in that category to be Kevin Durant's next team. You can bet on all that fun stuff over there at betonline.net. We are back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your teams every day. Thank you so much for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. For your next listen, go check out Locked On NBA for the national rumors and news in just 30 minutes every day with Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA is a daily NBA podcast for you. Subscribe for free across all platforms. You do not want to miss today's episode with Jake Madison and John Corrales. So we're back, and let's preview the top 5 matchups. Again, the full schedule drops at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. All we know so far is that OKC will open up against Minnesota on the road and play Houston the 2 days after Thanksgiving on national television. Here's what I think you should look for, and here's the games I think you could circle if you're getting the schedule in your hand today from the NBA and you want to see what games you might want to attend. Look for when Minnesota comes to town, and we've talked about how that matchup will fare, and also Houston. Those are 2 that I think that you should absolutely circle. And then Paolo Banchero. When does he come to town? Those are my top 3. If you can only afford to go to one game this year, just time commitment-wise, financial commitment-wise, travel-wise, I would make it a Minnesota, Houston, Orlando game because I think that those have the best storylines for a home game and most bang for your buck, especially if every team is playing every player. For the other 2 in the 5 list, and I'll give you some honorable mentions as well, I think it'll be fun to watch Josh Giddey go up against Dyson Daniels. Obviously they have a connection with each other playing in the NBL and stuff. And Daniels, of course, went and played in the G League Ignite. But Pelicans Thunder will be fun, and the Pelicans do have a young core that is very enticing and is very has a chance to be a breakout team this year if Zion stays healthy. That'll be a ton of fun to watch you because you get not only the Giddey Daniels thing, but you get Zion, you get Brandon Ingram, you get Herb Jones, you get all these guys that you're going to want to keep an eye on with the Pelicans. Now, this is one that you can't circle to go to, but on the flip side, if you can only sit down and watch one game in its entirety, and that's all you can do, work-related, whatever it is, if you're working overnights, call off work and watch this one game. I think you have to watch whenever SGA plays in Toronto because something special always happens for Shea in Toronto since he's been in OKC, and I think that you should make it a priority to watch that one game whenever they go north of the border. Some honorable mentions, every big man that comes to town. You're going to want to watch in person the way that Rudy Gobert, as we mentioned with Minnesota, handles Chet Holmgren, the way that the Sixers come to town, how does Joel Embiid play against Chet Holmgren? When the Bucks come to town, I know he's not a traditional center, but how does Giannis does he just push Chet out of the way? Does Chet add some resistance at the rim from Giannis? I mean, it's hard for anyone in the league to add resistance to Giannis at the rim, but can Chet do anything? And then a different take on it is Nikola Jokic. I'm going to change that. I'm going to alter that so much this season and mess that up so much this season with the Heat's Jovic and Jokic. But whenever Jokic comes to town, how does Chet defend against a big who isn't going to just straight up bully you, but can add some strength down low if he needs to? Also can play make, also can hit shots on the perimeter. Like he can do literally everything. That's why he's a 2-time MVP, folks. He can do it all. How does Chet Holmgren play against that style of center who's just not going to outright bully you? Like the only way Rudy can score is on pick and rolls and bullying people. For Jokic, he can score in a multitude of ways to where you just can't predict it and you can keep him off balance. And how does Holmgren react to that? I do want to see that play out as well. Now, the last thing in terms of just scheduling before we get the actual schedule, I think that the NBA really nailed their Christmas Day slate. Just real quick. The Christmas Day slate so far is Bucks at Celtics, 76ers at Knicks, Suns at Nuggets, Lakers at Mavericks, Grizzlies at Warriors. That's your full slate for Christmas Day. I think that that's a great counterpunch to the NFL. The NFL is obviously going to attract the most eyeballs. It's the most popular sport in America. It is king sport in America. There's nothing you can do to outrate it. I'm not sure that Michael Jordan and LeBron playing one-on-one on ABC on Christmas Day would beat out, Bucks Cardinals. I don't know. It probably would, but I would not feel so comfortable in betting on it that it would. But the NFL is again encroaching for like the third year in a row on the NBA Christmas Day slate, which is supposed to be their marquee day to market the league, and the day where casual fans say the season starts, and the day where everyone is accustomed and used to watching basketball. The NFL has been slowly chipping away at that. And so the NFL rolls out Packers at Dolphins, which the Packers are a premier brand. They have Aaron Rodgers, and the Dolphins have their shiny new toys in Tyreek Hill. Broncos at Rams. Rams, of course, in the LA market, and they also are the defending Super Bowl champions. And then Bucks, who have the best quarterback of all time in many opinion. I say Patrick Mahomes, but most say Tom Brady. At Cardinals, who are a very fun team with Kyler Murray, who you're all used to as Oklahomans. So it's a good NFL slate, not a great one. And I think that the NBA slate is great. I think that getting Giannis against the defending champion Celtics, who may or may not have Kevin Durant at that time, is great. Even forcing us to watch the Knicks is countered by seeing Joel Embiid play. And also, what if James Harden just bounces back and that Sixers team is just so fun? Suns at Nuggets, very underrated game. Nuggets fully healthy are going to be a lot of fun. We know what the Suns can do in the regular season. And then you get LeBron versus Luka. That speaks for itself. And you get the drama of Grizzlies Warriors. They're going to be calling each other out on Twitter on Christmas Eve. It's going to be a lot of fun to get that game hyped up and promoted. And so I just want to see that game play out. So a great counterpunch to the NFL, who is once again trying to chip away at it. They're going to chip away at it again next year whenever Christmas is on a Monday. They'll play their Monday Night Football game still on that Monday. So it'll be a lot of fun to see how this Christmas Day slate pans out. Usually there's one game where you're just like, okay, that's the one I'm not watching. That's when I take a nap. That's whenever I go eat Christmas dinner. That's whenever I just check out a basketball for the day. To me personally, as long as these teams are healthy, which we've got a long ways to go to get there, but if they're healthy, there's not one game that I just totally dismiss and don't want to watch every second of. And that's going to go a long way to help them draw away some eyeballs to the NFL. But again, the NFL is just premier, top tier, kingpin sport in America. So it'll be very tough, but it's a good counterpunch by Adam Silver and the NBA. So we're going to get the schedule today for the Thunder. We're going to break it all down on tomorrow's show, talking about things like, the longest road trip, biggest homestands, back-to-backs, rest, and kind of what this season looks like for the Thunder. Did they get a good draw, a bad draw, a mediocre draw? And also, I want to do this kind of thing again where we talk about games to attend for Oklahomans. Which games should you actually go to at the Paycom Center once we know when the dates are? Because a big one would be Christmas break. You have more time and more ability to go, and more time off to go during Christmas break and spring break and things of that nature, and any sort of key dates that they might release with this schedule, like a bobblehead night or anything that they might release. So be sure to check out that on Lockdown Thunder, wherever you get your podcast from, including on YouTube. And until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another.